Hello, welcome to day 7. We're going to paint some snowflakes. We're actually going to do it in 2 different ways, maybe even 3. I mean, really 2 is the same, but 2 different things. Snowflakes obviously are white. We're going to paint a dark background. We're going to use masking fluid for one of our snowflakes, and then we're going to do bleed-proof white for another one. We might even do a quick little sample of the GellyRoll pen for a small third. Then we can have an assortment of snowflakes on our page. I'm going to swap out water real quick because that's red. And here we go. I have a nice fresh one. I'm using Arches paper today because the Blue Pine Arts cotton paper that I've been using doesn't do as well with the bleed-proof white. The masking fluid. And so it's just one of those things where you just got to know your paper. I learned through trial and error that the more soft paper is good for some things, but it doesn't handle as well with the masking fluid. It can tear it up a little bit more. At least I think so. You know, I might be thinking of a different paper. It's really hard to remember. We'll practice another time. But for today, the first thing we need to do is do the masking fluid for the snowflake that we want to leave the white space for. And I'm going to use this masking fluid. I have these silicone tipped brushes. I think they're like pottery tools. They come in different shapes and sizes. I've got these 2 here that I use the most to try to get fine points, fine details. And we're just going to do some different snowflake designs. And yeah, hang on a second. Oops. Okay, the masking fluid can be a little tricky to work with, so let me get it open, maybe. Okay, sorry. Oof, there's a little bit that's wet. It's actually, mine is drying out a little bit, and it's getting near the bottom there. I'm going to need to get a new container here soon. All right, so we're just going to take a small bit, and I'm going to draw, I don't know, a few lines. It's hard. You want to make sure you're keeping it like fine enough, the details, but you also got to make sure you have enough masking fluid on there or it doesn't work as well. So, and I'm running out. But we're going to apply this and then we're going to have to let it dry because you don't want to paint over masking fluid. I probably should have done this a little differently because now it's going to be bigger than I wanted it to be. Okay. Yeah. Dang it. I really am like running out of usable masking fluid in this thing. Sorry, I keep getting sidetracked when I'm trying to talk. But we need, we're going to let it dry naturally. Using heat on masking fluid can make it harder for it to come off later. So definitely want to avoid that. I'm going to use some dots here. I'm just trying to do like a somewhat simple design. I messed up and I put my lines in a different way. Instead of having 6 little branches, I have 8. So I don't know if it's going to work as well as I had hoped. I also, like I said, am running out of the masking fluid. So it's not as wet and easy to spread as I had hoped. This little area is thinner than I would like it to be. So trying to extend that a bit. masking fluid is nice, but I struggle to get like really fine details with the masking fluid. I have one that came with like a fine like nib, whatever you call it, to apply the masking fluid, but the fluid got stuck in the tip and I couldn't use it again. I haven't been able to successfully get it cleaned out. I think it was operator error, probably. I didn't clean it well when I was using it. And so that's just something to be mindful of when you're using masking fluid. I know there are some companies that do a masking fluid like pen. I don't know how fine they get. I haven't tried the pens. And so that's why sometimes doing bleed-proof white after painting can be a helpful option if you're struggling to get the fine details you want with the masking fluid. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna let it dry for a bit. I'm gonna go clean off the silicone brush that I used, and then I'll be back. Once that's dry, we'll do the background, and then we'll do the next steps. Okay, I am back. Everything's cleaned up, and my masking fluid is dry. So we are going to go ahead and go. We're going to fill the whole background because the other snowflake over here and maybe here, we're going to do the bleed proof white and the gel pen. So I am going to do a dark blue sky. I want it to be kind of like nighttime. I know the white will pop really, really well on that. So I'm going to use a nice dark wash or two, couple layers of my Sodalite Genuine because it's a nice dark blue. So I'm I'm pulling a lot from there to get a nice big puddle. So it's easier to grab from. I can also pull straight from here later if I need to, but I like to have a nice puddle to pull from first. Okay, I'm going to grab some more water, fill up my brush as much as I can, and I'm just going to brush across this. I'm going to keep pulling from there, adding, it's because I want it dark, I'm going to pull directly from my paint palette as much as possible too. I want a nice dark layer. I'm throwing this on here pretty rough. I don't need solid edges. I just want a nice dark background for the snowflake. Snowflakes, plural. And this is just a fun way to see the different ways to paint snowflakes. Actually, while we're at it, it just occurred to me that we could also show you really quickly. I'm sure you've seen it before somewhere, but I'll do it anyway. A little snowy background using salt. So while we're here, let's just do a nice background of that same color. This would be a good time to use like a bigger brush actually to fill in the background. I should have grabbed a bigger brush. When you're trying to fill in a bigger area faster, you want to have a nice big brush. And for this, we're going to add salt right on top of our wet paint. We want it to still be pretty wet so that the salt can do some work. We don't want it to be soaking wet. Too wet and it'll dissolve too much before it really has a chance to do its magic. And I'm even going to do a slightly second layer kind of thing. I just want to make sure it's nice. It's still wet. And let me grab, I'm going to move this out of the way because I don't want the salt on there. I have a sea salt grinder and I'm just going to plop it right on in there. And I'm just going to let it sit and soak up that color. We're going to see how that works. So I'm going to shove that out of the way while it's drying. And then that's just to show you another fun way to add snow to a scene without having to paint individual snowflakes or near that. But so now we have this still back here. We're letting this dry before we start doing the rest of it. We could add some bleed proof white on it while it's wet and it would just kind of fizzle out, which would make, let me see how wet it is, because that it could be kind of fun. If we wanted to, if it was still wet, we could take it and just drop in some. No, it's not as wet as I thought it was. Okay. Never mind. If it was still wet, it would have fuzzed out a good bit. I'm still going to give it an extra minute or two just in case there are some wet spots before I start to paint my snowflake design. And then same with for the pen. We want it to be nice and dry before we try the pen. So, and actually I have a different gel pen that I like too. Let me grab that. I have this UniBall one, which I think actually works a little bit better than the GellyRoll. Maybe we'll try them both. You can just get a whole bunch of comparisons today. See all the different things. Trying to see how wet that is. It's still a bit wet. Can't tell on this. I may have put too much salt on it. Or it could be the paper too. It's one thing, it's good to take little pieces of paper and do it. I used the Blue Pine Arts for that. And I don't think I've ever done the salt on that, so we're going to find out how that works kind of together here. But let's go ahead. This looks dry enough. Get the bleed proof white. And we are going to, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to paint them in a very similar design. I might change them a bit just because, you know, no two snowflakes are alike, as I say. Or maybe I'll do it in the 6-point snowflake that I planned on doing, but I messed up when I did that one. All right, so for this, it's better if you can get it how you want it in one stroke instead of having to go back over it. The heavier you put down, the thicker your line will be. Okay. I'm gonna add some little dots here. So it's very similar to that other one, but slightly different. Okay, so there's our bleed proof white snowflake. And then let's do this one. And see this one, it's there, but it's not as noticeable as the bleed proof white. It's not as opaque as the bleed proof white, which is one of the reasons I prefer using bleed proof white. It is helpful sometimes when you're adding hints of white if you don't need it to be too strong of a color. And then let's see, we'll do this one, which is the UniBall. I accidentally made that an 8.12, so we're gonna make this one similar to that one. This pen works a bit better. It's not as fine, but it does seem to show up a little better than that one. So if that's something, depending on what you need the pen for, something to keep in mind. Okay, and then last but not least, oops, That's not really dry. The paint is, but there's some paint on top of the masking fluid there that is not. But so let's just rub this off. Oh, careful. Normally I let my masking fluid dry quite a bit more before I try to take it off. I just didn't want to have to save the video, pause the video again, and I wanted you guys to be able to just see how it ends. So here we are. That snowflake is much thicker. There's a little bit of masking fluid left behind, which I would have to rub off. It can be a little tricky sometimes to remove masking fluid, but yeah, there it is. And actually, if I wanted to, I could touch this one back up because I accidentally bumped that with my finger. But there's our 4 different techniques-ish, or at least different tools for these two, for making the snowflakes. And you can see it's definitely whiter using the masking fluid, but you can also see that some of the blue bled in spots, and it's thicker, and the white works fairly well. And if we went over another layer, it might be even brighter. But the pen is a good way if you want to add little touches of white, and it doesn't need to be as opaque. So it just depends on the effect you're going for. And really for snowflakes, I think these all could work. You could do a mixture of all of them in one picture, and it looks great. So there that is. I don't know if my salt has dried. Not really, and I will say that this didn't work as well as I had hoped it would. It might be the paper. It's good paper for other things, but maybe not for salt use. Or maybe it was too dry. I'm not sure. It's one of those things where it takes a lot of just experimentation to figure out what works on which paper or brushes. It's the same with everything. Brushes, paper, paints. You got to find what works for you. But there's your snowflakes. I'd love to see the designs you guys do if you follow along, and if you enjoy this, which version do you prefer? Did you try them all? Do you have a favorite? I'd love to hear what you think. And I will see you tomorrow for day 8. Bye, y'all.